Welcome to It's Not You, It's Grief, a safe space to have candid conversations surrounding the many faces of grief. How do you handle the process while moving forward and ultimately getting back to living in the moment? Come on this journey as we navigate grief through the art of storytelling. And now for your host, Ahira Smith.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Today is February 16th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of It's Not You, It's Grief. I am so glad to be here. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend. I know Valentine's Day was Friday. I know tomorrow is President's Day. So I'm sure people are kind of taking advantage of just some of the holiday events that are taking place. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for joining me. I have some special guests with me this time. I really wanted to do something a little different for Valentine's Day myself regarding the area of my expertise in dealing with grief and loss, because I know Valentine's Day is not a really popular holiday. There, as much as we like to celebrate love and be with those who have make us feel a certain way, it's not always lovey-dovey, and that's just reality. And I just thought, why not have a discussion on how we can still believe in love, how we can find love not only for ourselves, but those who we want to be close with, whether it's a significant other, whether it's people in our family, or even just being able to mend our hearts that could be hurting for those loved ones who are no longer with us, whether they transitioned or they just parted ways in our lives. And so I was able to find several wonderful people who were gracious enough to be on my platform, on my stage, to talk about their own experiences, about relationships and about grief and loss and what they have learned from it and how they're still able to believe in this one area of our lives that some people still seem to struggle with, and that's love. So first off, I definitely want to bring on stage a beautiful soror of mine, because once again, for those of you who do not know, I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And trust me, I did not set out this to be a Zeta event or a Greek event at all. I just asked for people to just, if they would be willing to come on my stage, and they said, sure, I'd love to talk about it. And so first up, I would like to bring one of my beautiful sorority sisters who actually has a background in special education. So shout out to all my special education professors, teachers out there. We need more support in our classrooms. There's a lot going on in our education system, and I really am so thankful for her to come in and still keep hope alive through K through 12, because I'm not the one anymore. I love the kids. I love the kids, but these kids are built differently. But nevertheless, I definitely want to bring on stage right now my beautiful sorority sister, Miss Anleeta. Miss Anleeta, are you here?
I am here. Hello.
Yes. Hi, soror. Thank you so much for joining me. You doing good?
I am doing excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So please just tell my audience exactly where you are, what is it you do, and tell me, what is your favorite love movie? What is everybody's got a favorite love story movie. So just give you a few seconds. But yeah, just introduce yourself to the audience and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I'm Anleeta Eaton-Buchanan, and I've been in special education classrooms for the past 25 years. I've worked in the capacity of a paraprofessional. Past 15 years, I've been able to be at the helm and be a special education teacher, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Never been in a gen ed classroom. I don't think I could survive there. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about advocating for students and parents, and just that community in general. So with all of that said, how did I land here? A little bit of background about me is I am divorced. I had been married for 20 years, and we had been together as a couple for 25. So I have quite a bit of experience in Valentine's Day shenanigans and things going right and things going wrong, so to speak. But I'm here in Chicago. For anybody that's familiar with the suburbs of Chicago, I am currently in Romeoville, Illinois.
Chi-town. Okay, now I was born in Chicago. I was born in Markham, Illinois. So definitely that south side of Chicago representing. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. And what's your favorite love movie? Do you have a favorite love movie? Because I know you're the big
Ooh,
Valentine's person. So
I am. Let's see. Well, I like the love story within Stomp the Yard. I know it's not a technically
oh,
not a romantic movie,
okay,
but I like the dynamic between
okay.
the two main characters. Always makes me smile, and it's like my favorite movie.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, I'll definitely share what my one of my favorite love story movies is. Y'all wouldn't believe it if I told you, but it's part of it has to do with the soundtrack. But I'll tell everybody once everybody else shares theirs. So thank you so much for joining me, Soror. Appreciate it.
Thank
Next
you.
up, I have another beautiful soror of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I'd like to refer to her as Dr. Tammy. She is a relationship guru. Let's just call it what it is. She has been very much an advocate to helping people on their journey of being better in themselves and in relationships. She too is also an educator. Look, check out all these Zetas who are a bunch of educators. That's all right. But you know what? She has a lot of love, and she has been able to not only have that love for herself, but to show others how to have that love for others in their world as well. So, Dr. Tammy, if you be so kind to be on stage. Hey, Soror.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Miss Relationship Coach. So, yes, please tell everybody on the stage here who you are, where you're representing, and tell us what is your favorite love story movie, if you have one or several.
Sure, no problem. So I am Dr. Tammy, and I too have a long term love of special ed. That's how I started out, and then I became an administrator, and I went several places all over the world. However, what I have found that really worked for me in this beautiful age of 54 is that I am a new entrepreneur as of last year. And I think that the beauty in that is that for once, I am doing something just for me.
Mhm.
And that is helping others to see the love, not only in relationships, but within themselves. So I recently wrote a book called A Brown Skinned Girl Like Me. It's a elementary school book. So I'm trying to spread love at all ages, but most importantly, let people know that it's important not only to love yourself and give yourself grace, but when you're looking at relationships, to build that in a way that's healthy for everyone involved. I am currently in Ackworth, Georgia, and I had to think about my favorite love movie because I hadn't thought about that. So as I'm sitting here, I was thinking really quickly and was thinking, okay, what could it be? So I'm going to go with this one because despite the fact that how it started out, the way it ended was still beautiful. And I'm going to go with The Best Man because the story was still beautiful despite the things that happened up front. In the end, that story was just one of love.
Mhm.
And he had to learn who he was and understand that. And that's part of the issue that we have to talk about when we talk about relationships. So I'm going to go with that one.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't go wrong with the best man. Can't go wrong with the best man. And trust me, the best man holiday, that's a whoo,
Woo,
that's that's another
that one
boy,
makes me
that one.
cry every time.
I cry
That's
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yes.
if anybody can watch that film, The Best Man Holiday, without crying, there's something wrong with you. You're not human. You're not human. But it's
Oh,
all good. It's all good.
indeed.
Yes, and for my final guest, I am so very fortunate to have somebody representing for the fellas. I know he's just one, but having a male perspective definitely adds element to our conversations as well. I just want to put it out there that I did have two gentlemen who were scheduled to be on the show tonight, but unfortunately one was called into work last minute, representing the National Guard. So for my fellow K-State brother of Lieutenant Colonel Kelly Smith of Kappa Alpha Psi, I hope all is well in your work tonight, and we miss you, brother, and we'll have you on another episode, no issues. But in the meantime, I do want to bring in another gentleman, and believe it or not, I found him in another group chat, who happens to be who answered a question that was really profound, and it's something that started a dialogue between the men and women in there, and it was talking about vulnerability when it comes to guys, why is it so difficult for men to show their vulnerability side? And his answer was so profound. I said, I got to meet this guy. I want him to come on my stage. I want him to talk with us and just share his experiences regarding relationships, and how did he find love, and how did he find it to be safe to do so in those vulnerable moments. So I'd like to bring on stage Mr. Marley Marl. Yes, sir. You doing okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again for having me. Hi, ladies. How are y'all?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good.
You are so welcome. Now, I just want to also put out there, we are not in the same room. Marley and I are not in the same room. We're not across the table. He's just a biter. You know, he just wanted to be like me.
What a biter.
So, I told y'all I watched Beat Street earlier, so I'm in my whole Beat Street breaking move days. It's Black History Month. Don't judge me. But nevertheless, Mr. Marley, I would love it if you would be so kind enough to just introduce yourself to my audience, tell them where you are, your background, your businesses, and if you can think of a favorite love story, which is it and why? So go right ahead.
Okay, like you said, my name is Marlon. I go by the moniker Marley Marl because I DJ as a hobby. My wife sometimes calls me Jamaican. No offense to anybody, but I have like several hats I wear. I DJ, I take pictures, I event plan, I have a sanitizing business, and I work a full-time job. So
Come on.
yeah. So between my wife and I, we have 3 daughters. I don't have any biological children, but I raised my goddaughter since she was 2. She's 34 now. So she calls me dad, and my 2 bonus daughters. So we have 6 grandboys. Yeah, the pride and joy of my life. Been with my wife 14 years. We met, got engaged and married all within 6 months. We've been together 14 years.
Wait a minute. He said 6 months. That's
what he said. That's what he
It
said.
doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine, right?
You hear that? Don't take all day to see the sun
again.
on your face. Come on
Tell him
now.
again, brother.
Yeah, like the night I met her, actually she's at one of my parties. So this was 2010. In August of 2010, we my business partner had a party. We had about 300 people. So we was like, we're gonna do it again. So come September, we had about 13 people. And my wife was one of the people that came in. And people look at me strange when I say this, but it's the truth. When I saw her, everything went silent. I just saw her. I didn't see anybody else. And I told her, I said, go sit down. You don't have to pay. You know, I'm going to take care of you. Real quick, within 5 minutes, I sat in front of her, took her shoes off, rubbed her feet. And I said, I'm going to marry you. And she looked and she was like, whatever. And at the time, I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, but the party was in my hometown, Macon, Georgia. And I was supposed to go home that Sunday, but I called my boss and I said, I'm not coming home. I want to stay around so I can get the money home.
Oh.
And I stayed an extra 3 days and we spent every day together. And we got engaged in December. And we had some similarities. Her birthday is December the 16th, mine December the 19th. Starting at the top, my dad went to school with her mom. My older brother went to school with her sister. I went to school with her brother, but I never knew her brother had sisters until I met her. And then my best friend actually went to school with my wife. So we never knew each other until that night. And we've had a great relationship together 14 years. Actually, March will make 14 years married, but we've been together 14 years. And we've never had an argument. We have discussions. We'll disagree. This color is blue, that's purple. What you want to eat? That's it.
Look at God. Come on.
Look
man.
at God. What? Well, first of
Won't
all,
he do it?
won't he do it? He did that. Listen, shout out,
Indeed. I love it.
shout out to those who know what they want and then claim it right then and there
And go
because
on
that's
with it.
and
Yeah.
go on with it and just taking that leap of faith.
Mhm.
So I appreciate it. Hey Marlon, really quick, what is your favorite movie?
Love Jones. I love Nia
That
That
Long.
was
right
my
there. That
second.
right
Yeah.
That
that
was
right
my
there.
second
That
one.
right there. That right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Boy,
anything Nia Long has been in, I watched. I just absolutely love her.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
listen, Love Jones. It was like that particular era of movies between Love Jones, Best Man,
Loving
and Love
basketball.
the Basketball. Oh my gosh, you
Loving
cannot go wrong.
basketball. Come on now.
That right there
I'll
was
play you for it.
classic. Right, play you for your heart. But you know what though? Before Love Jones and all of that, my favorite love movie, interesting enough, and again, a part of the reason why I fell in love with this film was because of the soundtrack. And I don't know if y'all are young enough to remember this film,
Let
but
me hear.
my favorite is Claudine.
Yes.
Claudine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I listen, rest in peace to James Earl Jones and
Amen.
Diane Carroll. But that right there in the 70s, when you saw that film and you saw the music, and
Yes.
here's this woman who got 6 kids, and this man who's
And
coming
he
in
came in.
and he can't, and though they had their differences, and she was like, this ain't gonna work, and he's like, you
Right.
don't know, let's see, and he still
Listen.
took a leap of faith and claimed them and like, let's do this.
Oh my
That
God.
right there was just so symbolic when it came to love. And it's like, it's not
Indeed.
always going to be perfect, it's not going to be all wholesome and love some, and there's going to be some issues, but guess what, we still in it, so and again, that soundtrack by Curtis Mayfield and
Oh
Gladys Knight the
yes.
Pips. Could I listen to that thing all the time?
Okay.
Oh my God, you can't go wrong. Cannot go wrong. Cannot go
And
wrong. So
it's
yes.
funny that you say that because here in the area, I don't know if you saw it, Molly Morrow, but Fox 5 had someone on who recently did this whole interview and discussion about Claudine and how she just recently watched it and it was so enlightening to her. And it does make sense to hear what you're saying because in today's time, so many of us are ready to just run immediately without giving the time or looking to see the person as a whole. Because if we're being honest, because I even talk about this in my podcast, if we're being honest, very few of us are 100% healed. And we come with a little bit of something.
Right.
So if we don't give that person the kind of grace that we're asking them to give us, we have an issue. And that movie in and of itself exudes that. It says, you come with this, I come with that. But when we get together,
Right.
we're working on something.
Absolutely. And I think another reason why all of the films that we talked about, what I really liked, because to me, and this is just through my set of lens, is that what made Claudine so profound to me, because I didn't see Claudine trying to fix him, and he wasn't trying to fix her. It was like, I accept you as is. You a garbage man. She was, she like, only thing I like, she like Rupert. First of all, anybody named Rupert, that ain't no easy name to grow up, but
That's
your name
right.
is Rupert. But for her, she's like, I just want to be with you. You don't even have to get on welfare. I just want to be with you. We'll take the hit, and I'm just like, wow.
That is the beauty of it. I think
Yeah.
that far too many people don't want to accept their person for who they are. They want to make those changes. But if you truly love someone, you receive them for where they are. And if they make changes as they go along, that's great. But receive them for who they are and where they are in that space, as long as it's a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's definitely important because again, some people who have just been hurt for various different reasons, they are so quick to cut their nose to spite their face that they're like, I don't want to be in a relationship because the last time I shared this with somebody, they up and left me or they hurt me.
That's right.
And then there are those who will throw it out there and be like, Cannonball, this is what I got out there, but you're not going to be able to accept it. I got it. We good. And then again, cut your nose to spite your face. So, it's a lesson that a lot of us have experienced when it comes to relationships. That's not always perfect, and there may be other elements as to why the relationships did not work out, and grief and loss comes into play. But again, my focus tonight is for us to just kind of share some, not only our stories, but just some words of encouragement to be like, don't give up on the love that you deserve, because everybody deserves to have somebody that's good for them. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it going to happen in a lightning bolt? Maybe. We would all love it to be. Listen, we can get started. Okay, so let's get back.
Let's get it.
Let's get back. So first of all, I want to know if you guys can recall, and again, it doesn't matter what time frame this happened, whether it was a couple years ago, whether it was those elementary school days when you had those little "Do you like me?" check yes no cards. Tell me what was your worst Valentine's Day experience?
I can start that one off.
I got this one solo. You ain't gotta say nothing.
Well, it was interesting, and it taught me very early to pay attention, that not everyone loves the way that I do. I have a very open heart. And especially when I was younger, this happened in high school. I was very much blinded. Had a crush on a guy. He was pretty popular. And I was just very young and dumb. I don't even know how my parents allowed me to do it, but I had bought a bunch of balloons and I had taken them to school to give to this guy. And he was smooth. He accepted them so graciously and told me thank you. And, I walked off feeling like $1,000,000. Now, mind you, I'm not thinking in my head, well, he didn't get you anything, so you couldn't possibly be on his mind. I'm just wanting to give him something. I want him to see me. So this is back when I didn't catch the bus often, but this particular day, I was catching a bus, and on the way to the bus stop, I saw a girl with a bouquet that looked similar to the one that I had given him. And that brother had taken my balloons, little old me. I think I was a freshman too, just young and dumb. And had given my bouquet of balloons to the person that he had a crush on. So I pretty much provided this sister with her Valentine's Day bouquet.
Oh no.
I took a very small L. I don't think a lot of people had even seen me give him the balloons, but when I tell you, I was crushed, and I was crushed for quite some time. But I'm that person. I love love. And so I got back on the horse and probably had a crush on somebody else, like, a couple of months later. But yeah, that was very hurtful. And it's funny. I still can remember what that felt like, to realize what he had done. Like, you couldn't wait till you got home to do it, or no, I gave them to him and he gave them to her, and that was it.
Wow. First of all, shout out to you for having the confidence to do that even in high school, because trust me, had that been me, I would have gotten off that bus, ripped that bouquet, and popped all those balloons. Like, pop, pop, pop. You ain't taking my stuff.
You ready to squabble up?
This is hard-earned money. This is hard-earned money. You got to earn this. Like, pop, get back on the bus. I am so sorry. No. Okay, who's next? Dr. Tammy?
I'll go next, because this is going to sound really crazy, but we've already discussed my age, so we all know I'm in my 50s. And so I was married for a really long time. And then after that, I was in a long-term relationship up until the last, I guess I've been single for 3 years now. And honestly, this is going to sound extremely sad, but I've never had a good Valentine's Day, ever. Like, even when I was married, there was nothing special ever given to me. And then in the long-term relationship after that, with the gentleman who said that he wanted to spend his whole entire life with me, that's another story. Nothing. So I'm tickled about it because as I look back on it, people say I should be bitter, I should be hateful, I should be angry because no one ever celebrated me. And I look at them as I look at you all today and say, absolutely not, because that was their loss. They decided not to appreciate the blessing of who it is that I was. And not to toot my own horn, but if anybody who knows me, like Sorber, I love love. And if I care about you, I am down with you as my friend from way back in the day says, like 4 flat tires. I've got you covered. So when I wasn't appreciated, I didn't even spend any time thinking about it. But in this space that I am today, when I do think of it, I think of it in terms of you lost out. You lost out because the rest of your life could have been special. Because as I say many, many times, I am somebody's blessing. And so I don't get upset about it, but people who know me, they go, oh my God, you never got anything for Valentine's Day? Never. And I'm going to be 55 in July. That's
Listen, first,
crazy.
that's wow. And you know what? First of all, again, for somebody who's supposedly 55, you look fabulous.
Amazing.
Personally, I don't think you are 55. I think you just try to catch cash on Social Security quickly because you know you ain't gonna be around much longer. But I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. But but like you said, it's their loss. We know whose we belong to.
Amen.
And we know that we are blessed with a lot of love. That's just in our DNA. That was passed down from our ancestors
Mm-hmm.
and have shaped us to be in a position to still love in spite of everything that's going on. So
That,
whoever is blessed enough to walk across your peripheral view vision and be like, "Ooh, Dr. Tammy, we need to talk."
I'm waiting
They
on
want to
him.
recognize that. But come on,
I'm waiting
walk
on
across
him.
her. She waiting. She waiting. Shoot. That's all right. He coming. He coming. He coming. So Marley Mar, what you got? What was your worst Valentine's Day experience?
Honestly, I've never had one because I'm a giver.
Oh,
I'm always
Oh,
giving to other
oh,
people, so
love it.
I never
okay,
expect anything returned.
okay.
But can I go on the flip side and say the best Valentine's Day I've been these last 14 years?
Come on, brother.
My
You
wife
better
and I,
say
we
that.
when we first started dating, we had the conversation, and I was just straight up with her. I said, I, I really don't do Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
I said, but you're going to get something on Valentine's Day. I want to make you feel special. So just say if Valentine's Day fell on a Wednesday, you're going to get a gift on Tuesday. You're going to get one on Valentine's Day, and you may get one after. I want you to
Oh,
stand out at your job, but it's never been a big deal to me because I mean I absolutely love this woman. She loves me, so we do a lot for each other all the time. So I can't even think of anything bad because, like I said, I was always a giver. I'm always a giver, so it didn't matter to me if I got anything in return. It didn't matter. Well, I'm gonna say it didn't matter, but until I got with my wife, I was so used to giving all the time. I never got anything in return. Now it's like, she's giving me stuff, and I'm like, okay, like, well, you gotta learn to accept things. I was like, yes, ma'am. I'm so used to not getting anything. So,
Because it's
but
hard when you're a giver.
yeah,
Hmm.
very much so. Very much so. But you know what, brother? That speaks more on your character than anything else. Again, there was a reason why your wife came into your life when it did. Because
That
now, for the last 14 years, y'all have both been giving each other what you needed, And the thing is that it wasn't a self. It's not that selfish love. It's selfless love.
right,
You like,
amen.
I got you. No, I got you. And
Mhm.
having that is a reminder that though I might not have gotten anything in years past, everything that I did not receive, I'm being blessed with it now, here's
Mhm.
henceforth.
right,
So, he always rewards us in the right time with the right people, and not everybody, the thing is that everything isn't for everybody. So there's some things that you may have thought about, like, it would have been nice if I gotten it from this other person, but there might have been some other stuff tied to it that might have been hindering
Mhm.
your blessing.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that, because there are a lot of guys out there who are giving folks. I don't want people to sit there and be like men are selfish
They're
and they don't
not.
give nothing. There are a lot of good brothers out there that don't get the type of reciprocated
Amen.
self and it's not even like you're supposed to get something, but there's a lot of guys unfortunately that do get taken for granted, and I just want to let those guys out there
That
is
we see
that,
them.
yeah, that who doesn't, for those who always give, trust me, the person who's going to be on the receiving end is going to see your worth and give it right back to you in their own
Mhm.
special way
Mhm.
to make you realize that you are worth being kept too. So
Can I say one
I
more thing?
appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I learned all this from my late father. I can just recall just one instance. Again, I used to live in Jacksonville, Florida, and my stepmom called and she's like, "We're going to give your dad a surprise birthday party." So I came home that weekend and I had to find my dad. My dad was on his way from Macon to Atlanta to go buy my stepmom a coat on his birthday. I had to flag him down. I was like, come back. I had to tell him we're about to do your part or whatever. But all the things I learned from my dad, my uncles, and my older brothers about how to treat women, and my sister too. So I can't forget her. So
But as I hear you speak, though, Marley Ma, what I hear you say and what I receive you to be saying is that as a giver, when you said that you don't ordinarily do Valentine's Day, you know what I took from that? I took from that you give love every day.
yeah, I try to.
Valentine's Day is actually a perk. That's a little extra because you give all of the time. And I think that so many of us tend to forget that we should be showing love 365 days a year. And when Valentine's Day rolls around, then
Mhm.
that's just an extra opportunity for us to show that extra love to
Yes.
our person. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Ab-
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what, brother? I appreciate that last statement that you made, that it just popped this question in my head. So I want to know, and Mark, you already mentioned it, but let's ask my sorors, what did you all learn from your parents when it came to relationships? You knew I was
Um,
going there. You don't look all surprised. You knew I was coming. I'm like, because let's be transparent. The first relationship that we all witness is that of our elders, whether it was your parents or your grandmom, aunties and
Mm.
uncles in the community. So, for you, again, Mom, you saw the relationship between your mom and dad, and you saw how your mom, took care of your pop, and that spoke volumes. And I know for me, the relationship between my parents was not an easy one. It was very challenging at times, and there was a lot of things that I saw that didn't sit well with me, and so I would always try to do the opposite of what my mom did or did not do because it just didn't look right, and at the same time, no, there was things that I saw my dad's in, and I'm just like, dad, come on, what's really going on,
Yeah.
so there was definitely some life lessons like that. But sorors, how did you all learn, what did you all learn about relationships?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I learned absolutely what not to do
Mm.
from my parents. My parents were together and they were married, of course. And I learned as I watched their specific relationship what not to do. But I will tell you who really showed me what love looks like in a loving and healthy relationship were my grandparents.
Yeah.
I watched them and learned what love is because those were two people who had absolutely nothing to give monetarily wise to each other.
Yeah.
But what they gave to each other was absolutely priceless. And when you can be in a space with someone where you don't have the glamour and the glitz to give, but when you walked in that door, you saw love. that was it for me. That is when I knew that it doesn't take all this extra stuff. And this is a whole nother podcast where people are talking about, oh, he needs 6 figures, or he needs this, or he needs that. It does not take all of that for them to show you true love. And I learned that from them. But from my parents, I learned absolutely what not to do. And I was thankful for both, actually. I was thankful for both because it molded me into who it is I am. I know to look for the character of a man. I know to look for what he brings to the table. When I say that, not material things. Is he going to support me? Is he going to be in my corner? And because he knows I love affection, is he going to hold my little hand and hug me when he comes in the door? I need the free things, not the things that cost you any money. Now, if you so choose to give those, that's on you. That's great. But I need the things that make me feel secure as a person and safe in your space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I learned from my grandparents, that whether we have anything or not, we can go out here in this garden that we have planted and we can pull out all the vegetables. We can cook us a great meal and we can look at each other and we can be in love. And that's what the kind of love I need. You don't have to come here to Rose Wars and all this kind of stuff. Can you come in here and love on this girl? Period.
That part. That part. Listen, you can find a lot of love over some cabbage soup.
Come
If
on.
you got the right seasoning.
Right.
You got the right seasoning. You got the right seasoning. What about you, Soror? What about you, Anleeta? What you got? What did you learn?
I was extremely blessed. I had 2 phenomenal parents who, for the most part, all I saw was love and teamwork.
Yeah.
My parents were ride and die. You know, if my daddy was driving, my mama was in the passenger seat. If they had to do a project on the house, she had a hammer just like he had a hammer.
Okay.
My mother was my dad passed away in 1999. My mom is still alive. But I saw a dynamic where my dad was strong and secure enough that he knew what my mother's strengths were.
Ooh,
And I just explained this to someone. Her strength is her financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
My mother is in her 80s and still has amazing financial literacy. My dad did not have the education my mother had and did not have the experiences my mother had. And all my life, I saw my mother sit down and budget and pay the bills. And the only thing my dad would ever ask is there enough money for me to have pocket money? One of the things that I remember, and I love that you brought this up because you brought up one of the best memories. There's a store, and I don't know if you guys had them in your area, but it was called Service Merchandise.
Yes.
And they had a big old catalog that would come out.
Yes.
And my daddy, in the literal sense, I think he was illiterate, couldn't fully read and write, but he could sign his name. And he would take me with him, and we would go to Service Merchandise, and he would try to buy that entire store for my mother for every holiday. St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, President's Day, didn't matter what day it was. If it was something he thought that he wanted to get from my mother, he would drag me to Service Merchandise, and I would have to read the catalog, order it, write the check, and hide it from my mom so that he could surprise her. So was it perfect? No, they had their ups and downs, but I saw nothing but commit. And my dad was ill, by the way. So my dad struggled with diabetes and some other illnesses that affected his mood, so to speak. And I would always wonder, like, Mom, how do you put up with that? Like, how do you deal? I wouldn't deal with that. What I learned from my mom is perseverance. She knew a side of my father that was my father, but that was her husband.
That part.
Right.
And what I learned was, the perseverance, the sacrifice, and just the commitment. So my story, I hear a lot of people say they were maybe minus a parent or maybe lost a parent very early before until my adult life. My dad passed several months before the year I got married. So I was blessed to see that up until I went down the aisle. So my story is a little different. My home life was just a little different. And again, I think I still believe in love to this day because of the pattern that was set before me.
Amen. Amen. And you know what? I definitely want to give a shout out to one of our watchers, Mr. Alfred Robinson, who made a really great point where my parents were that of the silent generation. And so what he said, let's stay together for our children. We can suffer through it until they're gone, And I know for me, that was definitely very much a factor from my parents. My parents stayed together until they raised my brothers and I. We got out of the house, went to college, and then they did their own thing. But a lot of parents did that for whatever reason, and I think that's in part because of the upbringing. My grandmother, she told my dad and his siblings, these kids didn't ask to come into this world, so you stay there in that household. They didn't ask to come here, so you do what you got to do to take care of the kids. And so that in itself was a blessing, but there was also some grief and loss involved, because there was misery. There's misery in those types of household when people stay together and they're not really happy. And those were lessons that I had to learn, and that's why I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to be misery loves company. I don't want that.
Oh my goodness.
And so for me, it's just one of those things where I know what I don't want.
So I'm so glad you said that, because honestly, in my marriage, I was actually married for 18 years, and that was actually my stance. I was going to stay despite how miserable I was, until at the time my middle child was 12. And I will never forget, we had gone to my best friend's house just to be over there. The kids and I would go and do things because my husband at the time didn't want to go. On the way home, my 12-year-old said, she looked at me with all the little sass she had in her whole body, "When are you going to divorce Dad?" And that's the moment I knew that what the viewer just said meant that I was doing it wrong. I was doing it wrong. Despite what we had seen our family members do, some grandparents, some uncles, some aunts, even my parents, I was doing it wrong because it was hurting my kids. For a child to recognize it was time to be done, despite the fact that I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to hang on until my last child turns 18, it was hurting them. And the best thing that we could have ever done was divorce, which I filed immediately. Let me just say this. I filed immediately after that statement, because I understood that I was hurting my kids. And in that moment, what I thought was helpful to them, I had to realize it was not in their best interest at all. Right. And in fact, they were healthier after that marriage actually ended, because both of the parents were able to be true to who they really were. And that made my children, who are now adults, be much more healthier and productive grown folks. And I'm glad that came up, because we think many, many times that we're choosing the best thing when it's really not, because it does lead to that environment that you said, negativity. Even though we weren't arguing and that type of thing in front of them, they could see on our face, they could see there was no love, there was no hand holding, there was no any of those things that parents should display, because we're teaching our kids how to love others and all that kind of thing. And it starts with us. They didn't get to see that from us. So we were hurting them. And I'm so thankful, again, that the viewer said what he said, because it brings that point to light that we have to look at so many things outside of ourselves when we're making decisions, because what we think is probably the best decision sometimes can be more hurtful than good. So I'm glad that I made the decision after she rode her little neck and said,
children are empathic. They watch everything.
Everything.
Even my students that I teach. But I had a similar experience, Dr. Tammy. My daughter was the one that kind of yanked my chain. She was a little smoother with it because she's older. My kids were a lot older. They were adults by the time I got divorced.
Okay, that makes sense.
But we were talking one day, and she just kind of slid the comment in there. She said, "How did you and Dad get together? Because you're so vastly different. Like, you're just complete opposites." She was noticing that he was going in one direction and I was going in another direction. So she wasn't as blunt with it. But again, I like to say she just kind of yanked my chain, like, you guys are doing two different things. What's going on? So they're very empathic and they watch everything. Even my adult children were watching everything that we did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think a lot of times people feel like they can't put themselves first. They want to put their children first.
That's right.
Which is okay, but at the same time, you gotta think about yourself. Put yourself first and be, selfish in that point.
And it's so hard to do. It is really a difficult thing to do, because even when I finally, after the marriage dissolved and I started the other relationship, I dated him for a great while. And then by the time that relationship ends, I have adult children. And my same daughter came to me, had a much more smoother conversation about that one. It was like, now, Mom, I'm gonna talk. It's the first time she used the whole, we're gonna have a woman to woman conversation. And I was tickled. I was like, this ain't no Shirley and what's the lady's name conversation. But
sure. Shirley. We know everybody remembers Shirley.
Sure.
Yeah. So it just tickled me, because when she spoke to me, it was such grace, and it was out of such love for me, and reminded me of who it is that I am as a person, and what I give to others, and that I deserve so much more than what I was receiving. And I loved that, because to see the two differences from the 12-year-old was like, when you gonna divorce dad, to this adult who is like, okay, Mom, you love so very hard. You give everything that you've got to give. But when is somebody going to give to you? That was an eye opener.
Yeah, and your children want to see you happy. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Coming from a 12-year-old talking about her dad, like, when you gonna leave dad, that says a lot about her character. Not saying anything was wrong with her dad. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, she just wanted her mom to be happy. And she saw her mom was not happy. So
absolutely.
You know what, that in itself, I mean, again, having those kind of conversations with your children, because again, they're observant, and just thinking on the generations that are coming behind us, they are so in tune with everything that they see out in front of them in social media. They're sponges. They suck that information, all that in. And I'm just hearing from what you all are talking about, social media may not have played a very big part in their lives. So they're seeing things in real life and be like, when are you going to divorce dad? Or, when are you and mom going to break up? That because at the end of the day, like you said, it's hurtful. But when it comes to what our parents were taught, you stay with them because of this, that, and the other, and because it's learned behavior. You don't go nowhere. You stick it out.
You stay, no matter what.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that I know who stayed in their marriages for their kids, and they would be treated like dirt. But because they were miserable, and because they were supposed to be providers, but like, well, this is what I have to do if I want to be in my kid's life. Otherwise, I'm going to be like my boys out there catching hell because they're not seeing their kids. So it's like, damn if I do, damn if I don't.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, how do you learn the lessons of love from grief and loss? How does one learn from that? Yes, ma'am.
Can I add something before you address that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to share something that I probably, if any of my friends or family are watching, they really don't know why my ex-husband and I got divorced. And this is what I tell people, because as a woman, I'm not sure if, and maybe Marley Morrow, maybe you could chime in and tell me for men, but I went through the gauntlet of, well, was he hitting you? No.
Right.
Was it verbal abuse? No. Was it neglect? No. It doesn't always have to be this severe thing. Right. It can just be a natural separation and loss of love between two people. That if you've ever been married or in a long-term relationship, once you get to that point, it is very, very hard to rescue and recapture that. And so when I talk, you will never, I have a very unusual friendship with my ex-husband. If you know, you know. If you see us, you know. We're still family. He's still the father of my children. I still respect him on that level. But as far as the respect and love that I needed to give to a husband, I was out of the capacity to give that to him any longer. And it was time for me to take care of me. So I just want to put the disclaimer out there that, for people that are divorced or that are coming out of a relationship, it's not, no, he would never put his hands on me. We didn't even have our kids didn't see us arguing or cursing or anything like that. But it's like Dr. Tammy said, you can feel the loss of love. We were going in two different directions. I felt like we just wanted two different things out of life. And the best thing to do was to allow each other the space to go ahead and have that.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it before it was too late. We did it before we absolutely despised one another. Mm-hmm. So I just want to put that out there. Like it doesn't have to be this abusive, or, you don't have to necessarily be running from something tragic all the time. Sometimes you're doing what's best and healthy for each individual.
Absolutely.
You see, that right there sounds like that was a lesson on love that you learned from that grief.
Mm-hmm.
That you had experienced, because that's real. And you know what? That's transparency. Because listen, one thing I haven't been fortunate enough to be married yet. Still hope alive. But I still believe in it. But
I'm waiting on number 2. Keeping hope alive.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. But I was taught this thing called pillow talk.
Amen. Come on.
And I but it's one thing when you're in a relationship, but when you have that thing called pillow talk, that's a whole different type of conversations.
Yeah.
And everybody is not privy to pillow talk.
No.
At least they shouldn't. You'll have people who say everything they can about what's going on in their marriage and stuff like that, and then you bring in more hell than you want, and it's like, and sometimes the hell's coming from your own kinfolk or your family, and it's just be like, you're my cousin or you're my aunt, and so for me, I've been very mindful that when it comes to matrimonial relationships, or even those relationships that had seasons in, not just years but seasons, just to be mindful, because you just don't know what's going on, and you don't need to know what's going on back there. Everybody deals with grief and loss differently, just like people deal with love and hope differently, because of our experiences, because of our background, maybe because of our education background, maybe because it's our culture, maybe because I'm from the South or you're from the Northeast, or the West Coast. So, there's so many different factors, but it's still a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's still very much a journey and stuff. So, we having some good conversations. So, another question that I have, again, lessons on love, dealing with grief and loss, and we talked about parents and what we learned. How do you keep the love at such a high vibration when there are people around you who just can't? Like your friends or family members, because you always got that one auntie who's always be like, "Oh, what's she doing with him?" Or that cousin be like, "Yo, son, yo, why you still with her?" How do you still keep that love in such a high space? That's still intimate without it being salted on.
Can I answer that first, please? I'm sorry, Dr. Tammy.
That's all right. Go ahead, brother.
We learned early on in our relationship. It's our relationship. It's not for public consumption. We never knew how it was going to turn out, as far as, because we don't do drama. We weren't going to argue, but we never knew that, looking into the future. But we did have the conversation. What it goes on between us is between us. Nobody else need to know. We got in that relationship. We got in our relationship like when social media was popular, like start popping in 2010. Just we put the good stuff out there. We put the tragedies out there. The only bad thing that happened in our relationship is death. We talked about that, but I mean, like I said, we've had no bad moments except for death. But still, the conversation was, we're going to be a united front for all the world to see, but when we're behind closed doors, that's our business. We want to fuss and fight like cats and dogs. Nobody needs to know that, even though we don't do that. But still, it's just, we're going to be a united front when we be in public. We can argue in the car on the way to this party, but when we get out, I'm going to open your door. I'm going to hold your hand.
Say it.
We gonna act like we're just the Cliff and Claire Huxtable of the world. But when we get back in that car, don't say nothing to me. But
So on one side, you got the George and Wheezy, but on the other side, you got Florence and George. Okay, got
Yes.
Because you'll have people out there that want to see your relationship demise, especially if you go running off at the mouth with them.
Yeah.
But then if you get back together with that person, everything works out. Sally Sue over there. Well, just last week y'all was arguing about
That's
such.
right. Because they know your
Howard.
business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They know your
I
business.
tell anybody. It was a younger couple. Maybe about 4 years ago. I DJ at their wedding, and I talked to them. I said, I don't know y'all, but I'm telling y'all like this. Whatever happens between y'all, don't tell your family members, because your family members would dislike your husband or wife, and you'll be put like an outcast because you can't go around your family, because you can't take your husband or wife because your family don't like them. I said, so keep your, especially these mother-in-laws, keep them out your business. Keep them out your business. And if you got a sister or brother, either side, don't tell nobody. Yeah, how y'all doing? We doing great. Y'all could have just cussed each other. I thought we're doing absolutely great. And I told him, I said, don't tell anybody your business.
That pillow talk is real.
You better believe it.
There have been many people, and again, because people are so quick to go on that social media platform because it's so accessible. They're like, I'm putting this on there, and you may delete it, but guess what? It's still the
I've already
cloud, and
seen
then
it.
people are screenshotting
They
it. Girl,
see it.
didn't you?
Screenshot,
Right?
yeah.
I saw what you posted 3 months ago about him, and this, that, and the other, and now this, that, and the other. That's oh
That's
my
right.
gosh.
That's right.
Dr. Tammy, what you got? What you got?
So I'm happy to actually hear Brother Marley Mars say that, because in both of my long-term relationships, that's exactly who it is that I was. Whatever happened in our house stayed in our house. That was between us. That's why people were so shocked. For example, when I got divorced, people were so confused. Oh, he's a great husband. Well, that's what you think, because that's what I allowed you to believe. Not that he was the worst human being in the world. Let me make that very clear. But our business was not out there in the street. But I want to talk about this currently from the perspective of a single person. I am an empath. And as you all know, I'm also a relationship coach. So when people come to me with things, they always come with their feelings out there first, as opposed to the actual facts. So I often carry those feelings because it's just who it is that I am. But I have found that what helps me to help them is to pull the facts out and to help them to get out of their feelings. Because what we have to remember is it's our feelings that cause most of our problems.
Yep.
Because sometimes those feelings are things we misunderstood. We didn't have the clarity that we needed in order to make the right decisions in our relationships, whether they're loving relationships or family relationships, but especially romantic ones. We got to pull those feelings back for a second and find out what the real issues are. And once we do that, then I let them put those feelings back in there. Okay, now how do you feel about that?
Right.
That is where I currently am as a single person, and helping not just myself, but others to say, okay, let's get to the facts first. Remove the feelings for a moment, then we can put them back in there. And so that's where I think is very, very helpful to people, because they have a lot of aha moments. The light bulb comes on and says, oh my God, I reacted off of my feelings because I interpreted, or I felt, or I thought, as opposed to what actually happened. And that helps them, because when I ask those guided questions, well, tell me exactly what did he say, or what did she do? Describe it for me. Put in an outline for me, step by step by step. And once they hear themselves say it out loud, they often say to themselves, I overreacted, didn't I? And I'm like,
Story of my life.
right? Maybe you did. Oh, I hate to tell you, but most times that's exactly what happens. Is there was an overreaction, because when we love people, and I tell people this all the time, even with my background in conflict resolution, even myself, I know better. But when you love someone, you care about them, sometimes the conflict resolution goes out the window, and you have to take a step back, look at the facts, and come back and let the feelings flow in
Right.
at that moment.
And you know what? That's a definitely great point, because that's what gets a lot of people tripped up with those daggone text messages.
All the time.
Those
I'm
text messages
guilty.
be getting a whole bunch of people like, no, he
I'm
didn't say
guilty.
that. I'm like,
I'm guilty. That's why I'm telling you.
oh my gosh.
I'm transparent.
And it's like when you show it to somebody else, look what he said. Be like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, you don't feel that? I'm like, no, I don't.
Right.
It's a
Because their feelings were attached
right.
to it.
It's a text. It's got words.
That's
but
right.
but that's why it's important to get back on those conversations and having those face-to-face talks.
Absolutely.
So that way you can read a person in front of you and not just go based off your own interpretation of how you feel
That's correct.
about that messed up meatloaf that you had the other night. That it wasn't burnt intentionally, but you just miscalculated the degrees that you set on the oven.
That's right.
I'm just saying. What you got, Soror? You'll be the last one with this question, and we'll just end it shortly after that. But go ahead.
We got to go back to the question because we've talked about so many good things that I forgot what the original question was.
Well, the original question was shoot.
I need a session with Dr. Tammy, by the way, because that's who takes me off on these tangents.
Come on, I got you covered.
This is what networking is about.
Come
this
right
is what
on.
we do. But no, it was just about how do you keep the love that you have on such a high vibrational.
So I'm gonna be transparent again. Early in my marriage, no one taught me how to keep my marriage within my marriage. I was more adept at being a mother than I was a wife. And so what I learned, I believe in learning from your mistakes. I don't like to repeat mistakes. And so what I learned, and I learned it in my marriage. Keep everything in house, right? Like you operate not necessarily in a bubble, but you just keep everything in house, as was described earlier. How do you keep it at a high level? I'm in a new relationship. I'm happier than I've ever been because, to be honest, most of my girlfriends, I get a lot of the "where have you been?" calls. What are you up to? Well, who is he? Well, I'll let you know when I'm ready for you to know. Because I want it to be so solidified and I want it to be solid enough that when I do present him to everyone, he's been presented to a select few, so have I. But it's different than it was before. Social media can be the death of a relationship.
Oh, yes.
You got to know. I tell people you can share, right? Because I love the highs of love and I love to share it and I love to encourage others. Like I'm seeking love after divorce, and a lot of women our age feel like it's not applicable. I'm 48, by the way. I'll be 49 in July. And even I had kind of given up until I met the person that I'm currently dating. But you keep it at a high level. It's a choice.
It is.
The same way I go to work and I put in effort, I have to come home and put in effort too. I learned that love is not effortless. I think that was a big lesson learned. In my marriage, I believed in the fairy tales and I was read the fairy tales and my parents made it look easy, and love ain't easy. I have to make a choice. You getting on my nerves. I'm gonna hold your hand anyway. And it's kind of like what Marley Marl described. You're getting on my nerves, but I'm gonna fix this plate anyway. So for me, keeping it at a high standard, you make a choice every single day to love that person. It's not going to be innate. It's not going to come easy because you got two people from two separate, especially at this big old age. It's not like it was the first time that I got married. So it takes probably more effort at this age because I'm kind of, we get kind of set in our ways and we've had some experiences under our belt, and we can be kind of arrogant about that. But it's the choice that I wake up and choose to love this person every day, despite what goes on between us. So I think that's how you could keep it elevated. You just got to wake up and make that choice every single day.
Amen.
I totally agree. Can I say one thing before I know you're about to go to something else? Something my wife and I, we've been doing the last few years. We didn't start out doing this, but as we're together, we learn from other couples. We see things. We, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? This was brought to me by an older couple at a church. And they were just talking, and I said, "How long y'all been married?" She's like, "We've been married 57 years." I was like, "That's
Ooh, come
great."
on.
So I said, "How do you keep it interesting?" And she looked at me and she said, "We have a relationship checkup." I was like, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, when we talk, she said, we'll sit down every 6 to 9 months and we'll say, hey, this, and this." She said, "But if something comes up earlier, we'll talk about it sooner." But she said, "You get your car checked out, you get your body
Mhm.
checked out at the doctor. Why not get your heart checked out with your partner?" I was like, "Great."
Mm.
The second thing we started doing now, we told each other we love each other a million times in the morning before we go to work and before we go to bed. But now with the way things are, you just never know what's going to happen. Something can happen. Somebody could pass away soon or whatever. Every time we talk on the phone, we tell each other we can talk 5 minutes. I love you. Call back 5 minutes later. Okay, we just do that now, and it makes me feel so much better because I always want her to know that I love her, and she said the same thing. So those are two things we've been doing the last few years.
Brother Malamar, I just recommended that checkup and check in last
Yeah,
Saturday in my last speaking engagement because it works.
it does.
It works.
It
It
really does.
works. It works. You have to let your person know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And they need to do the same because it could be something really, really small that you can talk through before it becomes something that you've held on and held on and held on to that becomes resentment and it doesn't need to be there.
Right.
Love that. Love that.
It's
Thank you.
important. It's important because all three of you just hit it on the nail because it's about being intentional.
Mm-hmm. And
Closed mouths don't get fed. That's why babies
man,
get big. So we got
that's
to
right.
speak up. And I think the days of us of suffering in silence are way over. I think it's very obsolete. It's no longer valid, especially for us women and the fellas. Because a lot of times I know guys came like, well, they're not supposed to share their thoughts. They're not supposed to share their feelings. Bump that. Mental health is real.
Yeah.
and
Amen.
and part of the reason why a lot of people are struggling is because we don't have safe spaces to talk about stuff like this because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just take it to the altar. If you were raised in that manner, take it to the altar, give it to Jesus, and that's it. It doesn't work like that
Not
anymore. there's
enough.
there's it's not enough. Exactly. There's other elements involved that can help you, but again, you have to be intentional. You have to make the effort because it's a day to day choice. Because as Marley Morris said, things change from one minute to the next. You never want somebody that you love, that you in a relationship with, that you made a covenant with, not know that you love them, or vice versa, and then something happens and be like, it's gone, it's too late, can't hear you.
Agreed.
So it's
Agreed.
deep. But first and foremost, thank you all so much for just
Yeah.
sharing
Thank
a
you.
little inside look on the possibilities of love. I feel hopeful that there may be somebody out there. Area code 706. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
Come on,
I'm,
Sora.
I'm gonna be like Cheryl Underwood. I'm taking
I
it from
know, right? I'm putting it
Vintage.
out there.
Put it out there.
Closed mouths don't get fed. Somebody
What?
said it earlier.
That's
What?
right.
Right,
That's right.
ages 27 to 30. No, anyway. But seriously, thank you all so much for just sharing. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for
Thank you.
just
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
just being present, telling it like it is, being transparent, because again, there were some things that you shared that came from previous pillow talks, but you're like, look, this is what happened, this is my journey. People can learn from it, we can grow from it together. We don't have to be where it was. We can still continue to move forward. So I thank you all so much. Really quick before I let you all go, is there anything, I know we got an author here. We got Mr. DJ, hostess with the most. We got Miss Special Education Speaker. I definitely want to give you all a moment to just shout out any upcoming events that you may be having or doing, so people can support you or reach out to you if they want you as their relationship coach, if they need the DJ, they want to talk to, for somebody who's got that special education background. I definitely I want you guys to have that moment. So whoever wants to go ahead and share, please do. Contact information.
Ladies, go first, please.
Sure. You want to go first, Sora?
I can.
Okay.
It's nothing elaborate. Like I said, I'm a veteran special educator, and I speak to, and I also volunteer for several organizations that help individuals who are caregivers of a loved one with autism. That's something that's really close to my heart.
Daughter.
So if anybody's out there, I'm also what they call a teacher self-care advocate. As you know, teachers, nurses, anyone that's giving care to someone else, you can get completely drained in a heartbeat. And so I actually wrote a book about my journey to real self-care. It's called More Than a Manicure, because I don't want to say I'm a survivor of, but I've dealt with depression and anxiety. So that's also another platform that I've been able to be blessed to speak on and about. But specifically in education, you see a lot of suffering that the kids go through and a lot of injustice within the educational system for students with special needs. So that's kind of my thing. So if anybody has any questions or want to, and I give the disclaimer, no, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I've just seen a lot, and I have spoken with and helped a lot of parents and students along the way. So you can reach me through my email, wrappedineducation@gmail.com. And that's kind of a play on the fact that I'm usually wearing some kind of head wrap, and I'm also literally wrapped in education all the time. So that's my email. That's how to reach me. And if you need me, I'm here.
Wonderful. And what was the name of your book again, Soror?
More Than a Manicure, My Journey with Real Self-Care. I actually went to a facility and told them I was not feeling like myself. I had quit teaching, believe it or not. Right before COVID hit, I quit my job. I had to walk off and go seek the mental help that I needed. I was breaking down and I was no good to my students or anybody else. And so that real self-care, I'm talking about my mental health. There was nothing that a day at the spa could do. There was nothing a vacation could do. I had to get my mind right. So when I say more than a manicure wasn't going to cut it.
Good for you.
No doubt. No doubt. Tammy, what you got, Soror?
All right. So I am both a relationship coach as well as a consultant for organizations where I help with conflict resolution. I recently also wrote my very first book, which is a children's book. It's called A Brown Skinned Girl Like Me. The Elementary Years is the first book in a 3-book series. And it's about me. Actually, it's my story about being a smart girl who people didn't understand. And so I wrote that book, and I'm just excited about being able to do that. So to reach me, before I say to reach me, I also have a podcast. I almost forgot. In the Trenches with Dr. Tammy, I have a podcast. So that airs every Friday on YouTube and every audio platform that's out there. So that's a blessing. But to reach me for any of my services right now before my website launches next week is at drtammy70@gmail.com. And that's my beautiful girl with autism walking in the door. So I got tickled when you said you said something about autism. She'll be here in a second. She says, "Mommy, I'm here."
Aww.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And yes, sir, Miley Marr, you'll close us out.
First of all, I want to say thank you for letting me be a part of this. Ms. Buchanan, Dr. Tammy, thank you guys for letting me be this. So as I said earlier, I wear many hats. I have an event planning company, and it's a one-stop shop. So Dr. Tam, just say you're getting married, you come to me. I got a decorator, cake maker. My wife does sweet treats. I got a photographer, Bart. I got everything you need. You don't have to talk to anybody else but me. So we do that on the side. The biggest thing I have coming up is in April. My sister and I and a group of friends, we're doing a scholarship alumni party for my high school. So we're going to give 2 scholarships away to 2 deserving seniors from our alma mater. That's about the biggest thing I got coming up. You can reach me at Marlon, MARLONL White @gmail.com, or you can just look me up on Facebook, Marley Marl White on Facebook. So, and you know what? I would love to keep in touch. If you have another spot for me later on in your show, please let me come back. I just love talking. So
This is
Oh,
beautiful.
I'm bringing all y'all back.
This
Y'all
was
some good
wonderful. I
guests. Y'all
loved
some good
it. I
guests.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
I'm
need.
sorry. Last thing, I do a podcast also with 3 other young ladies called The Brew.
Wow.
Woo!
Yeah, the B is being real every week, so that's why we call it The Brew.
Okay, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I definitely want to make sure that I get you guys back on here, have another conversation. My mind is working because you guys just dropped a lot of gems out there, and I'm hoping everybody was able to pick up what we put down. But thank you again so much again for me. As a grief mending coach, sometimes I need to kind of pivot away from being so heavy with grief and loss and just talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, because we all need to see the light when it's a little too dark. So I thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy holiday weekend to sit down and talk and chat. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you again, even offline. And for those who are, going through some struggles, listen, you got some people here you can reach out. So whether you have a child that has special needs, we got our educator here. If you're dealing with somebody who you want a relationship, some expertise and a book to help motivate that little girl in school, guess what? We got Dr. Tammy. If you got that one-stop shop, look, I want to have the DJ, the florist, the caterer, or the photographer. We got Marley Moore. Just all of us here are here to support each other. It's not just about us, it's about everybody that we come in contact with. So please reach out to us. More information will be provided through the description. But thank you all so much. I appreciate it. This is Ahira Smith, the grief mending coach. I look forward to you guys coming back next month on another special episode of It's Not You, It's Grief. This was a good conversation. This is a
Very
good
good. And it went by so fast.
it does. But you know what? That's all right though, because at the end of the day, we all were able to pick up something.
Yeah.
Indeed.
We all were
Indeed.
able to just have a little bit more hope and glimmer when it comes to love. So again, phone number 706-7. I'm just messing with y'all. Don't be
And I
calling
felt
me.
left out. I had to join. Everybody was in the room but me. I felt left out.
I know. I didn't want to say anything while they were talking, and she was giving Marley Marla her time. I said, "Well, I better join in too." So that's what I did.
I did not want to put anybody else on spot. I'm like, everybody's moving into my house here. I'm like, what's going on?
We didn't want him to be all alone. And
Look, I saw Dr. Tammy in the living room by the piano. I didn't want to be left out.
Exactly.
All I know is the next time y'all come into my house, y'all better bring some liquid or something. Y'all better bring something. I got all these people in my house here, and we talking about love and everything.
Let's
and
bring
I'm like,
it.
listen, y'all better bring some cordials.
Let's
Like
do
my
it.
mama
Let's
used to
do
say back
it.
in the day. She like
And
bringing cordials in the house. So,
Agreed. And I need to collaborate with these two
I just
beautiful
got water.
people. Marley Marla, I have a travel agency too. I forgot to say that, but we can add that to your one-stop shop.
See, well, boom,
So,
boom.
Wow.
The honeymoon destination. Boom.
Indeed.
There it goes. But thank you all so much for joining us. We all hope you had a good night, good time with us, and we will see you guys soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you for listening, being intentional, and sharing this moment with us. We at It's Not You, It's Grief deeply understand the many facets of grieving, and we want to make sure we can be here for you. Again, thank you for listening, and tune in again wherever you subscribe to podcasts. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.